Again, rough one when you can't get zeros. And I think for the third day in a row, chasing crooked numbers after the first or second inning, it's our guys didn't compete the way that we needed to at the plate. When things are happening that early in the game, all you got to do is just kind of keep chipping away and keep chipping away, and unfortunately, we weren't able to do it.
Coach, the pitching had been trending up as of late. What was it about this series that you saw that led to kind of that regression?
So obviously, when you take out Libbert and Horn, that's probably, when you look at the last couple of innings, it's 9 outs minimum from Horn, and then from Libbert it's been 15 outs. So you're talking about taking out 24 outs, almost a game's worth of outs, and removing 2 pitchers, even though Libbert was able to come in and give us an inning. And then I think you saw the result of, unfortunately, us having to ride some guys all throughout the year. Like, hats off to Lovett. I mean, we've saddled that dude up all year long, and he's just competed his tail off, and there's just not a lot left, unfortunately. And so I think as you saw guys come in, you just saw guys that have worn it a little bit, and then you also saw some guys that got in there and pitched that we haven't used in a long time, and that's because we were pitching it well and we didn't need to use them, and they weren't guys that we wanted to use in leverage situations. But and so you remove 2 guys, then that it kind of put themselves in a situation that were establishing themselves, and you ask some guys to be in some different roles, like with Tony starting, then you get what you get.
Was the plan with those 2 just to make sure they're as rested as possible going into Tuesday, Wednesday tournament?
Yeah, like I said, you got 2 guys that from a rehab standpoint are kind of still going through that. So it was, if you use them this weekend, you can't use them in the tournament unless we get past Tuesday. If you don't use them this weekend, you have a chance to use them in the tournament on Tuesday. So it was a decision that I made with regards to their health and safety, and then at the same time putting us in a situation where we can go there and be competitive. The hope, if you will, was that with the guys that we were running out, we were going to be in a situation where we were looking for Kellenbrink to give us a little bit more length because he had been trending in the right direction. Tony had a good weekend last weekend. Hey, can you go out and give us 9 outs, and then we could piece it together with a Lucas and Lovett and some of those types of things. But unfortunately, the plan just didn't go the way that we had hoped it would. And then McDevitt, last weekend had a great weekend. Again, another guy though that's coming off rehab. So you're going to have some ups and downs with guys like that when they're coming off that rehab situation, and that's what I think we saw.
What kind of adjustments do you kind of want to see from the pitching staff heading into the tournament, especially coming off of this 3-game set?
Yeah, again, I think you have to look at who pitched, what roles they pitched in, versus where they've been successful and what roles they will pitch in next week, right? Obviously with Libbert and Horn, you got 2 guys that are going to go out, throw strikes, be competitive, and so we're looking for a good outing from those 2 guys to kind of set us up.
One of the major themes of the season that you've talked about is maturity. Do you think as the regular season wraps up, as a whole, your ball club is more mature than it was at the start of the season?
Yes. Not as much as we would have hoped they would have been, but yes, I believe that they've progressed. And again, you guys have been watching us all year, right? Like, you can look at it and say, well, the record or the end is the same, but if you really dig in and watch, we've made some I don't want to say vast improvements, but we made improvements. The only problem is they get lost because you take 2 steps up and then you take a step back. So then you kind of forget that we took 2 steps up, right? We go last weekend, we have a great weekend. We play the best baseball that we've played, and it was nothing crazy, but now that gets lost in the fact that we come home for the last weekend of the conference series season and we get swept. So yeah, it's been this kind of up and down deal with this group, if you will, and hopefully as we move forward into the tournament, into next year, guys will then, everything won't be new to them, and they'll be able to make some adjustments and be in a better position.
To build off of that, from a maturity standpoint, how do you use this as a head coach? How do you use this season as a learning experience to kind of teach your guys for next year or even years to come? How do you use this as a learning experience?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is that I'm a big quote guy, and one of the quotes that I've kind of put up basically speaks to the reference of failure is beneficial if you learn from the failures you had, right? And so if our guys learn from the things that we didn't do well, but more importantly from the mistakes that they repeatedly made without making adjustments, then we'll be in a good situation. If they don't, then it won't be beneficial for us. So to be able to talk about the things that we did well, talk about the things that we didn't do well, how often did we not do those things well, why did we not do those things well at a high clip, and what do we need to do moving forward to make sure that we minimize that. Nobody's going to play the game perfect. You're going to make mistakes, but if we can cut down on the mental mistakes that we make, then we put ourselves in a great position. And what I tell our guys all the time is, I can handle mistakes, I can't handle bad decisions. And so we have to put ourselves in a spot where we're making better decisions, because mistakes are going to happen. We can live with those, but not bad decisions.
As you go into the tournament next week, how big of a difference is it having the experience of last weekend's series, where you guys finally kind of put it together, were able to come out with a couple of wins, versus, just 2 weeks ago you were kind of staring down the barrel of an over SEC season?
Yeah, I think it's, again, obviously anytime you can win is good, right? And so going into that environment like you talked about, it won't be as fierce as going to somebody's home field, but it'll be a very intense environment because it is the tournament. Now we have the 10:30 game on Tuesday, and so sometimes there's a lot of people out for that one, sometimes they're not. But I think that if we can just kind of, again, reset, go in. This is our third season, if you will, right? I talked to you guys a couple weeks ago. Our season breaks up into 3 seasons: preseason, from conference play, and then postseason. So this is our third season. Well, now for all practical purposes, everybody's even, right? And so now let's go in and see what we can make happen in this next week.
As you get into and past the postseason, at what point do player retention conversations happen? At what time does self-scouting the team, trying to figure out where you're able to add coming down the line, when do those conversations really begin in earnest?
So when you talk about the conversations with the players, they happen when the season's over. When you talk about those conversations with coaching staff, you're constantly evaluating, right? Be it knowing that you're going to lose guys to the draft, or realizing that certain guys aren't good enough, or realizing that this guy's good but he's probably better at this position, or here's some adjustments we need to make. So that's always going on. With the players, we won't have any of those discussions until the season's over. We do stay focused on the task at hand, but at the same time, recruiting is a 24/7 deal, right? Like, it never stops. Evaluation for true people who want to improve, you should never stop evaluating yourself. Even if we were the #1 team in the country right now, I would still be in a situation where I'd be looking and saying, well, how can we get better? And we're going to lose these guys, and we need to do this. So we should always be looking to improve, and that's kind of my mindset here.
Coach, when you talked about Tony earlier, do you obviously still kind of working his way back in, do you kind of see more long-term, like that he'll be more of a relief armor, someone that you'll use consistently more in the starting rotation?
I think we got to wait until he's completely healthy, right, before we say that. He's an intense competitor. He can handle pressure situations, so that's what you want from somebody when you look from a relief standpoint. But it's also somebody that has the ability to throw a fastball, the slider, the change, and curveball for strikes. So when you have a guy that can throw 4 pitches for strikes, then now you start to look at them and determine whether or not they can fit into that starting role or not. So I think once he's healthy, that will give us a better indication of what role he could potentially have for us. And more importantly, what does the rest of the pitching staff look like moving forward, and where does he fit best to help us be successful?
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate y'all.